Real news. Honest and fun political talk weekly on the line 90.7 FM.
Welcome back, everyone, to Real News Uncensored. We're going to have this episode, then we're going to be off for 2 weeks, but we'll still provide you content, though, every week, so stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button to get more fun, interesting, provocative, cool content that you're not going to see anywhere else. And then after that, we'll have, I think, 2 more weeks, and then we'll be back on the full-fledged show. Have awesome guests and all that cool stuff. So, again, subscribe, stay tuned in for more. The story that's been sort of capturing the headlines today is another Twitter debacle, in the eyes of the media at least, where President Trump went after Elijah Cummings because he was criticizing the border facility places, and so he basically turned on him saying, well, since your district is Baltimore, why don't you spend time fixing that up? And he called it a, quote, rat and rodent infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy. Why is so much money sent to Elijah Cummings District when it's considered the worst run and most dangerous anywhere in the United States? I think I've been to Baltimore like once. I haven't seen all of it, but I know it's a pretty bad area. I think Camden, which is close by, is like the highest crime in the country, and I think Baltimore is up there too. I don't know how high. But I think some of us here have been to Baltimore more than me. What would you guys say about the accuracy of this tweet and, saying it to begin with, like if it was worth it?
I mean, rat infested and filthy. I don't know if I'd use that necessarily. I'd say it's probably more crime infested than anything else. Because like where I used to live, that we used to have a one of those like gas stations. I think it was like Royal Farms or 7-Eleven or something that got robbed like every Sunday on the fucking dot. Like it was pretty bad over there, and
Right.
like it used to be like not quite as bad, but within the past couple years after they had those, I think it was Freddie Gray, one of those protests over there. Like the city really went to shit because I think it was the district attorney. She like gave the rioters a safe space to loot and destroy shit. And like after that, just like the cops stopped wanting to go there.
Oh, so it became a no-go zone.
Like they basically created like a safe space to destroy the city, and after that, like it's gone even further down. But yeah, I mean, certain places are pretty dirty over there. Like I know, what was that? I think it was Inner Harbor. It used to be like really bad, but last I checked, it was doing better, and then that might be doing worse again because people stopped giving a shit. But yeah, it's not a good place, and like I know there's a lot of like political shit going on.
Yeah, here's a lot of corruption.
Like there was school districts in like Baltimore that couldn't afford to go and have heat on in the winter, and this was a couple years ago. And I think some guy from Penn State, like a football player, is like donating to the schools to help them afford heat. But then it's like, when you look at it, there's some of the highest like per pupil spending in the country. So how in the hell are they doing so bad academically, and how are they doing so bad just with their finances where they can't afford to keep the heat on in the winter?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of crazy stuff. And like if you look in Maryland, like you got on the one hand like Baltimore itself, which frankly is a kind of a shithole like city, but then you get like other places like I'm trying to go and think the name of it. Like they have some of the highest like performing like school districts in the country. Like my cousins, they lived in this place, and like all the houses there, they're like millions of dollars. I'm trying to go and is it St. George's?
So basically, it's the rich neighborhood, and they have the rich schools, and it's a lot better there.
Yeah, I'm trying to go and like they have some of the really really good places. Like it's expensive to go and buy houses in Maryland because like one, they have like a rain tax over there, which I don't understand that, but like
what they tax
like,
the rain.
They tax it like based on how much rain your house can get, and like the property taxes are pretty expensive. Now Pennsylvania's got a bunch of really weird rules on property taxes, like where the local government like it changes things. So like at least Maryland, you get one like state income tax, and I think just a set percentage goes to local taxes. But like, yeah, it's pretty bad over there. Like like with all the expenses, just everything they want to jack up prices on. But I don't know. It's an interesting place. I don't know if I'd want, like, I'm glad I got out of there. There's there's a lot of cool stuff downtown, I guess, but like it's just gotten worse over the years. And I remember when my aunt, she was driving down to the like downtown one day, and like this was back when the protesters were there, and she's like,
I remember that.
protesters, and she was thinking that they had a parade going on, but yeah, she didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was definitely not a parade. Like in Camden Yards, that's where they have their baseball, the Orioles over there. Like they had to go and shut down games over that, like when there was bad protesters. And I remember they had one game where like no fans were in there, and it was just the players playing baseball.
Oh, really?
It was the strangest shit. And my cousin was supposed to go to that game, and he was kind of pissed. I think they gave him a refund or something. But
Was that like a low league game? Or was it like a
no, that was major leagues, and because of the dangers due to the protesters, they shut it down.
Oh, I think I might remember that actually, but that's really weird.
Now, where's our football, our sports ball enthusiast, our sports ball expert?
Okay, so like, wait, where are we still talking about Baltimore?
Yeah.
Well, no, okay. So like, so Camden Yards is a beautiful part. It is, but like right outside of Camden Yards is a complete shithole. Like you fucking cross a couple streets and it's just awful. It's just an awful fucking place to be, especially at night. West Baltimore, like the part where Elijah Cummings is supposed to fucking take care of. It's a complete mess. A complete mess. Some of those places where you have like some of the housing out there is just run up to shit. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. Like even when you and it's been like that for quite a bit, pretty much since Elijah Cummings has been in office. Like even with because you had the Freddie Gray thing with the protests and all that stuff, and that like that play you had the CVS's burning over there and shit. Like that whole place is just like around that area is just one giant shithole. Don't get me wrong, some areas in Baltimore are pretty cool. You got Inner Harbor, you've got some decent stuff. Some places downtown are kind of nice or whatever, but man, West Baltimore, holy shit, man. Do not go there at night.
You've been to Philly, right?
Fuck yeah, I have.
Would you say it's worse or better than Philly?
It depends on what place you're talking about. Because I think it runs. I think the story runs itself, but like crime wise, Baltimore's worse.
Wow. Okay.
Crime wise, Baltimore's worse.
At some point, I don't know. I mean, Baltimore is terrible, but Philly is. I've seen the crime rates over there. It's not good either.
But yeah, so the volume. I'm sure that the volume. Philly has more crime via volume, but as far as crime rate, because Philadelphia is obviously the bigger city. But crime rate, yeah, that would probably go to Baltimore.
And just as a correction, it wasn't St. George's County, it was Howard County. That was where my cousins were. That was like the best school district in Maryland. Like they would tell me some pretty crazy shit, but like like Maryland outside of Baltimore, there's like actually a lot of really nice places. Like you have ZeniMax, the people that like made Elder Scrolls. There's a lot of really good jobs there too. They have the highest income. Average income in like Maryland's, I think, the highest in the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's always the cities. It's always the cities that are bad.
What you have is a lot of people who have jobs down DC over there too. Like there's a lot of like government related jobs because it's significant. Like it's expensive now, like depending on where you live, but it's not nearly as expensive as DC with all the people that work in the NSA and like CIA stuff like that. Like my one uncle did some government work and he lived in Maryland, but he had to go down to DC, and a lot of people dealt with that. Personally, that would be crazy. I don't know if you've ever driven on the Beltway, but that like makes you want to jump off a bridge. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. I know people that work in DC, and a lot of them will live in Virginia because, yeah, DC is so expensive. So you live in Virginia, you live in Maryland. Nobody lives in DC, except really poor people. Like, it's people think of DC as this glorious, beautiful city. Well, that's only when you're seeing the landmarks, the White House, the Washington Monument, the mall, that stuff. Once you go outside of that and you start seeing the city, it's kind of rough. I mean, I've heard it's gotten better recently, but it used to be really bad. Like, really, really bad.
Like everything's expensive in DC though. Like too,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I would go down there for a school trip, and like this was back in the day. Like things weren't as expensive as they are today, but like still, I think it was like $15 to buy lunch, and it was like shitty cafeteria food. And I was like, fuck this,
Mm.
that was crazy expensive. But like, there's a lot of nice things in DC too, and like
Mm-hmm.
they have the light rail. My dad used to go and like he used to go and work on some of that stuff. So there was it was actually a pretty good it was a pretty good transit system. Like I'll give Maryland that. Like the light rail, it's better than anything I've really seen in Pennsylvania. And the roads over there, at least they know how to maintain them. But like the cities, they're the place you want to stay away from generally. But like yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff down there. It's just you kind of have to stay away from the shit places. And Baltimore, for the most part, would be one of those places to stay away from. But if you ever have the chance, I visit Colombia. They got some pretty like Colombia, Maryland, not the South American country.
Well, no, go there if you want some good Coke. But anyway, go.
Find some good
or if
cookies
you're a
once-
Secret Service agent that wants to get a little excitement at night. Does anybody remember that scandal?
Oh yeah, I thought that was in DC.
No. They were going all the way down there when they were, I guess when presidents were visiting or something. They were, bringing in prostitutes and drugs and all kinds of crazy stuff. It was bad.
I think DC, like I think DC's have some weird laws with like just things because they technically weren't a state. And I know DC now. My brother has a buddy of his, and like they have marijuana legalized in like DC, but you can't sell it, but you can like give it away for free. So what they have is these little like things where people will go and sell like shirts for like $50 or $100 and wearing them
Oh,
free. They do shit like that to go and stay like above board with that. And he goes down to DC all the time to go and buy pot.
Jesus.
And he brings it back up to like fucking, PA, which you shouldn't be doing. Like, I don't know, like that whole thing, that's just kind of a whole mess.
With the marijuana or the loopholes with that.
Oh, no, with like the loopholes with that. Like, they
Yeah.
can do that, but they can't sell it. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't get it either, because like either it's illegal or it's not. It's decriminalized or it's not. Like it's almost like there, it's like one and the other, or like one but not the other.
Well, yeah, no, the current system with that's all kind of jacked up too because you end up having people who legitimately need it and they can't, like, they have to go and choose if they want their Second Amendment rights or if they want to, like, get treatment.
Mm.
But, if you want to get, like, heroin, basically, you can get, like, Oxycontin and all this other
Adderall. If
And
you want meth.
You can still keep your guns, but, like, if you want to have medical marijuana for, like, PTSD or whatever the hell they prescribe it for, you're giving up your right to protect yourself. So, that's the one thing I do wish Trump would kind of hit on a little bit more.
He might. But speaking of protection, Supreme Court rule just last night made me excited, jump up and down, and happy as I've been in a long time that in a 5-4 decision that Trump can use the $2.5 billion allocated from the Pentagon funds to fund the border wall. So this was came from the shutdown where he used his emergency powers to allocate this money that was allocated for construction and some other stuff with the Pentagon. So he allocated it to the border wall. Now, what is this giving us? This is giving us 100 miles of brand new spanking wall and 100 miles of repaired wall. So parts where it's falling apart and people can get through easily. So you can have 200 miles of brand spanking new, beautiful, protected border. And this was like I said, I was really happy to see this news. it's not. I mean, it's making waves, but I think this is a bigger deal than people realize. 'Cause this is a big, major development. Like, because the wall's kind of been stonewalled for so long, and this is actually going to make significant progress. I don't know how long that border is. I'd have to fact check that, but obviously the whole thing isn't going to be covered. But this is a huge, huge moment that I think is getting totally. It's kind of almost flying under the radar a bit more than it should be.
No, this is a really good thing to happen. Like they've been trying to make it so it's impossible to go and put a border wall, and they want a border fence, and finally big victory for this. So hopefully he gets this stuff done. He starts on that stuff real quick.
Yeah, I think he will now, because now he's got the green light. And
yeah, the border is a little less than 2,000 miles.
Yeah, and a lot of that is also just emptiness.
Right, yeah, emptiness, and like there's certain terrains that really are kind of unwallable.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean 100 miles. It's like, yeah, that's a pretty good dent. I'm not sure how much wall's already been built. So like, because I know construction did start a while ago, right?
Yeah, there was like repairs happening and like little extensions. Like it was kind of like he was doing what he could within his powers, but to build brand spanking new hadn't really happened yet. But it had been like repairs.
Yeah.
That's gonna be nice, and I'm pretty sure the Democrats are upset about that. And they're also probably upset about a couple other things that happened recently.
Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna get into those things too, because this week, overall, I think has been the best week for President Trump in a long time. You had, starting off on Wednesday, I think it was, Mueller bombed. He did terrible. In his testimony, it was so bad, he didn't know what he was talking about, that even a lot of lefties were saying it was bad. That's how bad it was. And then Boris Johnson was elected Prime Minister of Britain. I think it actually happened right before Mueller. So now we have a Brexiteer, British Trump essentially, in Britain working with us. We already got trade deals in the work with Trump. Things are already starting to get better there. And then to cap the week off, at the very end of the week, boom, we have the wall approved by the Supreme Court. This is literally his best week ever. The Russia hoax is gone. The wall is going up. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So what's this Boris Johnson? What's his sort of like shtick?
Well, if you have seen his appearances on Top Gear, he used to be the mayor of London, and he's a conservative. He's a very fun, cool guy. Love him. He seems like a decent guy. Seems like a totally authentic guy. He's been a re-elected prime minister, and his big thing is to deliver Brexit, to pull Britain out of the EU. I think by August 31st is the deadline or something like that. So he's going to pull them out, and he's also going to be working on trade deals with Trump, a bunch of other stuff. He's pretty solid. As conservative as Britain can get, he's pretty solid. And I think he's going to be fantastic.
On him, yeah, I've seen some interesting things. Like apparently, it's also saying that he was vegan or something. I don't know if that's true, but I saw some stuff floating around there.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true either, but that'd be funny.
Oh no, I don't know if I could trust a vegan. 'Cause he used to be like really cool and was into like fox hunting and stuff, and then it was like, oh yeah, I try like not eat meat as much anymore. It's like, dude, I can't stand vegans. Like unless you have like unless you have a serious like condition that prevents you from eating meat, or like you're doing it as a form of like self-sacrifice and you keep it to your fucking self.
Yeah.
I don't see the point in that. 'Cause a lot of these people, they're like communists and climate change alarmists. These like vegans, and they always bring it up like, how you know if there's a vegan? Oh, they'll tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Like bicyclists, or like, I don't know, like a climate change like one of those like green hippies. It's like, oh, well, see, I make everything out of like grass and like trees, and I go and don't bathe except for the rainwater, and I make the soap.
I ride my bike to work every day.
Well, see, that's just stupid. Like I see this all the time. Like that would piss me off because, like, you'd have to live like really close to work, and I don't, because I don't want to spend like an extra $1,000 per month on like housing. But like, that's, a lot of these like bicyclists, they're just like insufferable. And
Oh, I
like,
know.
let's say, like, how's that even work? Like, I saw a news article, like someone decided to go and like start riding their bike. Like, they sold their car and they just take Ubers and they ride their bike to work and shit. It's just like, how do you go and pick up groceries? Like let's say if you don't live at like downtown, like, stuff like that, it's gonna be a pain in the ass. Like, you don't carry it yourself. Like, you have to go and make multiple trips to the grocery store, like when you want to pick up a week's worth of groceries. Unless you like, if it's just yourself who is living there, you might be able to pull that off. But like, like I've seen bicycles with these like little, like, basically storage compartments, and I guess you might be able to do that, but your bicycle's gonna look like, retarded.
Well, you could just, I'd imagine it's like, like the little baskets they have in the front of them.
Like, I've seen
Just
one
like
when I was at
stack it
Penn
up over that.
that had like, it's like multiple baskets. It's like a huge basket, so it's basically a tricycle. And I was like, dude, you look like, if you're riding that, you're not going to be getting any positive attention for it. I look like my other ride's a short bus.
Well, imagine the weight too, because now you have to now pedal the weight of your body, but you have to pedal the weight of all those groceries and all that stuff.
Yeah, and like, let's say that there's like frozen shit in there. It takes like an hour or two to get home. Like, it's going to be you're gonna have to like get a freezer bag and load up with ice every time you go to pick up food. It's gonna make you like, it's gonna limit how much shit you can buy as well. It just seems like it works if you live like downtown in the city where you can like literally walk 5 minutes to the grocery store. But if you don't live in that scenario, you're gonna have a problem.
Well, yeah, it's only, I noticed well, see, here's the thing about veganism. You notice it's always the quote unquote privileged elitists that are vegans or can be vegan. Nobody else can do it except them. So it becomes sort of a class thing, like, oh, I'm better than you because I'm a vegan.
Yeah, and it's a time consuming thing too. And I had a professor at Penn State who used to be vegan, and he stopped because like, you can plan out all your meals like clockwork, and if you fuck one thing up, you might end up not getting all your nutrients. And I think even then he had to go and take some sort of vitamin supplement, because plants, they produce a lot of shit, but there's certain things, like certain chemicals, they do not produce.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave him some issues, and it's just not healthy.
It's not. Because I think you miss out on a lot of protein.
Yeah, like you have to, like, you can get a lot of proteins, but like from plants and stuff. But every plant, like the proteins, there's like so many different varieties. You got like, I don't know if it was like B12 or like like whatever the fuck it is. Like, they have like 20 different proteins you need to get, and like most plants have like a couple of them. So you're gonna have to like just mix and match, and it becomes a second job just to go and like not die. And it's like, why are you doing this to yourself when you get all the protein you need for like a piece of chicken?
Yeah, exactly. And it tastes better.
Well, now they want to get this like super special, like, like lab grown chicken, and they're like, oh, well, this is ethical meat. This hamburger was grown in a laboratory. Like, dude, that's you want to say that you're this like green person, but now you're like eating like lab grown meat. You want to stay. You say that you want to stay away from all these like synthetic foods, but now you're getting like meat grown from a fucking lab.
Oh,
that's probably gonna cost you 10 times, like probably like $50 for like a fucking hamburger, or however much it's gonna be, versus just buy like a pound of ground beef for like $2.
Well, you notice these people too, they're like radically anti-GMOs too. They think it's like the worst thing in the world. GMOs, genetically modified, what's the term? Organisms, I think it's called.
Organisms.
Yeah.
No.
Or that.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, genetically modified organism. And I, somebody who was an ex-vegan for a little bit and saw the light told me that, GMOs are literally nothing. All our food is that way. And it's been that way for a long time, where they just change a little bit of the DNA structure. They sort of tweak it to make it, corn bigger than it normally is. There's nothing terrible about it. And it's already like it's already been set in. There's nothing wrong with it.
We have, like, if you go and look in history, like what corn originally came from looks nothing like what we have today.
Exactly. That's the perfect example of what GMOs do.
Like, I don't know why people make such a big deal. I mean, there's some things they'd be really careful about, like when you start, like, actually, because there are different types of gene modification where they'll, like, like Roundup Ready stuff where they physically alter the DNA of the plant and they go and make it so that it has, like, the genes of a fucking jellyfish or, like, like a fucking tomato or something. And you can start getting into really crazy shit there, but for the vast majority of things, GMOs are just fine.
Yeah, it's like literally all our food has been GMO. It's you do it all the time without even realizing, but these people just want virtue signal that, oh, I'm better than you.
Look at dogs, like pugs are GMOs, and they're like the bad type of GMO because they're useless animals.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, look at a pug. Like, it's miserable. It does nothing. It can't run. I don't think it can really have sex too easily because its body's so dysmorphic. Like,
They look
it's made
so depressed and sad. I'm like, and then people are like, oh, they're cute. I'm like, no, they're ugly.
thing with British bulldogs. So if you go and look in history, like the original British bulldog was like pretty much like a pit bull today. Looks slightly different, but now the British bulldog is this like, small creature that can barely breathe and it farts all the time. And it looks like Winston Churchill, and that's what you get. It's like, what's the point of this? Like, this represents England. Actually, it used to be this like badass thing, and now it's like, it's also one of those dogs that I think needs to have sex and doesn't breathe right. It's like, I'm just picturing, like, if you ever seen Robot Chicken, like that asthmatic nerd dude. Like, my picture needs to be like a Chad bulldog versus the cock bulldog, like modern adaptation.
Somebody should make that meme for us in the comments. But is there anything else you guys have about Boris? I know, Phil, you were pretty happy to see that.
I was pretty happy. It was I like when people elect people that are not of the norm.
Yeah, me too.
And Boris is definitely not of the norm. So yeah, I mean, do I think that he could make a change? I'm leaning probably toward the no, because the parliament really has its claws deep into what's going on over there. But at the very least, it'll be fun to watch.
Well, do you think he can deliver Brexit?
I don't know if Parliament will allow it. Like, I mean, I think Parliament's gonna resist it at all costs.
Well, there's a lot of, I believe it's such a weird system. So I could be saying is completely wrong, but I remember in the last election, the Brexit party like won big. So I would think they have a pretty big hold in Parliament. Am I wrong?
Well, that's kind of a deceptive thing, because while yes, the Brexit party did gain, there's still between the Liberals, like the Labour Party, and the there's and the Conservatives that were not pro Brexit, like I think they still have enough to maintain Brexit, or to stay in Brexit, or reject any Brexit legislation of any kind. So,
oh god,
yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. Because I know Brexit Party kind of made their own party to separate, really from like conservative stuff, and I mean,
Well,
what's up?
Why'd Brexit split from UKIP?
I don't know.
Not everybody was cool with Brexit. Not every UKIP was on board.
Well, and I think also not everybody was cool with UKIP. Keep that in mind. I think it was more of a rebranding effort.
Mm-hmm.
Because
there's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, because the Brexit Party is founded and led by Nigel Farage, who was UKIP. And it says the Brexit Party has 29 members of the European Parliament and 4 Welsh Assembly members. I don't know how that stacks up against the others, but 29 out of the 73 seats. That's how much they have.
Someone told me that it's because Sargon joined UKIP and people got offended.
I don't know I don't know, actually, it was over Tommy Robinson, I think.
Bunch of pussies.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I think Farage didn't like Tommy Robinson for some reason, and that's why he left. I could be totally wrong, but I think I remember hearing that from Sargon or somebody else. I don't remember, to be honest, but then that's when like Milo, Sargon, Count Dankula, Paul Joseph Watson joined UKIP.
If Farage is that much of a cuck, I lost all respect for that man.
Yeah, I'll look it up right now, but like I know he
like a bunch of bitches. Like, I don't know, they're like, oh, this guy's offensive. I don't like Tommy Robinson. He's okay with, he doesn't like when people get raped. Like, dude, if Raj says that, I hope he eats a bag of dicks.
I wouldn't be happy if he was.
They're so cucked. I hope World War III happens. Then just let Germany take them this time. Be like, okay, you can't hold yourself up anymore. All the good people died. Just go and be your own. Do your own thing with them. And learn.
Well, I do believe I said this in a previous show that England is probably the last country we should model ourselves off. Like, as far as America goes, like, look, you look at since the British Empire, right? They have lost everything valuable that was a part of that British Empire. They lost India, Hong Kong, America. They're probably going to lose. They're probably going to lose Canada and Australia here.
They already did.
They're barely. Yeah.
They're barely keeping a hold of Scotland, right? They lost Ireland.
They're going to lose Northern Ireland too.
Northern Ireland, sorry, yeah. They don't even own half of their own fucking Premier League teams, right? They're owned by foreigners, right?
Look at their cars. Like, what do they even have that's like that they actually make anymore?
I think it's only Aston.
I think that's it. Like, it's just these like rare, like it's like luxury and like super sports cars, like nothing that people actually drive. It's all owned by like BMW or like Tata. Like,
yeah.
Like that's pretty sad when your ex-colony like owns it. I mean,
because India owns Land Rover.
Well, I mean, technically, I think like doesn't Chevy own Opel or whatever too? But I don't know if that's really a British car manufacturer.
Does Opel even make cars? Opel's German.
Is it German? Well, I thought Opel was like
it's owned by the French. It's German but owned by the French.
But I thought it was a subsidiary of Chevy.
It says Opel sold vehicles in the United Kingdom under the Vauxhall brand. But Chevy is basically our version of Vauxhall, I think.
Well, what about Jaguar Land Rover? Yeah,
that's owned by Tata.
Owned by the Indians.
Is it? Owned by a fucking by a company that sounds like titties. My car's a Tata. Like, dude, you get your translation right. That sucks.
Oh god.
Like, I'm surprised they don't like an Indian car like manufacturing like like Kaka or something. Cox.
Oh or Baba.
Like these like Wienermobile cars. That's some fun shit.
Yeah, we had some Tatas in Afghanistan. Like they're like the stripped down car, like the most stripped down fucking things you've ever seen.
Oh,
God,
really?
They really were pieces of shit. Like, wow. I mean,
well, what were they though?
Weird. I mean, they were like, it looked like they were like modeled, like they were of Land Rover shape, but they had nothing in them, like nothing but a motor and bucket seats, and that is fucking it.
Probably increased reliability because those fucking Land Rovers. I just saw like
they're terrible for liability.
Yeah,
well, they had like an Uber driver that was driving, or maybe it's a Lyft, I don't know, who was driving a Land Rover, and then the fucking steering wheel falls off in the middle of the drive. And the guy's like, fuck this, I'm jumping out of it.
I mean, they were gloriously terrible pieces of shit. I mean, it was bad.
And then the U.S. military was using them?
The army was using them. I gotta I know that the army had those, and I think the I think the Air Force had fucking Chevys, which I was fucking envious of because they had actual air conditioning, legit air conditioning, and fucking radios and shit. Like they had radios, like they had radio
Wow,
stations.
radio.
But like when you're over there, that's like fucking, that's a big fucking deal.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's like better than jack shit. Like I don't know what the fuck was going on. Like I guess the army is the army, but I mean, but yeah, that's my only with Tata, like the Tata Motors. That's probably that's like the only my only other than, I mean, obviously the Land Rovers are pretty nice and the Jaguars are pretty nice, but like, oh,
I didn't
that's
know
like,
that, but that's interesting that we're using Indian equipment. I mean, God, that surprises me.
well, Indian owned shit, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder where it's actually made, but
Enough money in the military, we could afford to buy like American or at least like decent cars.
oh, our budget's so big, we should be able to now.
Well,
So,
most of that budget's going toward the awesome shit, which goes like a lot of it goes into the Air Force because like, which makes sense because the F-35s are like a big fucking deal. And, yeah, with a lot of the cool shit in the military goes to the Air Force and a lot of the planes and shit. Like, it's not like the army. Like I think how I saw one report, like when I saw like the defense budget, it's usually like it's sliced up, I guess, into almost equal parts, but like the army size wise is larger than the Air Force. So naturally the Air Force has like more money to work with per soldier or per, unit or than the army does. So
that makes sense to some degree.
yeah.
To correct something we were talking about just a second ago, Farage left UKIP because he got Brexit, so he was done. But he did say later in 2018, he said that he was, quote, appalled by UKIP's decision to appoint Tommy Robson as an advisor, and then he vowed to bring down its leader, Gerard Batten. I don't get why he doesn't like Tommy. I mean, he believes in what he believes pretty much. Like, what's... Tommy's not even... People think he's like an extremist. If you listen to what the guy says, he is not. He's actually... maybe he's a little bit more radical from an American perspective, but in Britain, it's a totally different context. So what he's advocating for isn't that crazy or radical. It's actually just, it would be, I would say, like, a little bit more than moderate. It's it's strong, it's tough, but it's not radical.
I don't know. He's probably been cucked by all his like. They're like, oh, if you don't like Islam, you're like super evil in England because that's like half of our country now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why Farage would say that other than political reasons. If he's trying to get, just a better image. I mean, I don't know. Because the people that support Nigel, I would think, would love Tommy. Am I wrong?
Probably true for a lot of them, but then you get all these like their version of conservative is like even more conservative.
Yeah, so
I don't really trust Britain anymore. Like even their quote unquote base politicians are like pretty innocuous.
yeah, I know there are much more. Like even their conservative party isn't as conservative as our conservative party. That's one thing people kind of don't understand in America here. But
like Poland and Austria, they're starting to get shit done. They actually have real like conservative parties that like are actually conservative parties, not like the UK or even the US in some ways. Like there's some like base people out there that'll go like beat up communists.
Oh my god. They actually have communists in those countries?
They're kind of rare. Like in Poland, I don't think you can have like full on communist shit, but you get socialists out there.
Yeah. It's very different in Europe. Like Antifa, for example, it's like a massive presence there, like thousands and thousands of people. And in America, it's more like, not as small, but in Europe, it's huge. It's really weird. But I don't think we're gonna have much to talk about this one topic. But I know the media talk about tirelessly the whole Mueller testimony. Did you guys watch any of it at all?
To who?
The Mueller testimony.
Oh, no,
Oh,
yeah. Tell me what basically happened.
Literally nothing. I mean, he bombed. Every answer he said was, "I don't know," or quote, "It's not in my purview to answer that," because he wouldn't talk about the Steele dossier. He wouldn't talk about any of that stuff. And he even said he didn't know things that were in his own report, and they would bring it up to him. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, but you talked about this in your report," and he'd be like, it was so bad. It was,
Really wanted to come.
what was that?
I don't think he really wanted to go there.
I don't think so either, and I don't think he knew anything about what he was talking about.
Yeah, I think that the Democrats probably were like, oh, we're gonna force him to speak, and that'll make him like really be happy. And then he's just like, fuck you guys, I'm done.
Well, I think it was very absentee management. Wasn't really involved much. He was just a figurehead. Was just there, asleep at the wheel. I mean, I've dealt with that type of management. I know what it looks like.
Like he already, I mean, say what you will, but he already did what he was like put on to do, and after the investigation, he's done. So like the fact that they're doing this to him now, it's like, you'd think that the Democrats would at least get someone on there who like knows what they're talking about. Like you don't just go and hire like an expert to come to you without like consulting them first, because he even said over there, hey, I can't testify on this. Like back when the initial report was done, I can only give my recommendations, and now it's just like he's making him testify before Congress. He subpoenaed him. It's just like, fuck you.
Yeah, it's very, very weird, the whole thing. I really think they hyped it up so much. They put so much eggs in one basket. They put so much like faith in him, and so that when he bombed, when he just totally went against their expectations, they were like in shock, disappointment, disarray. So it's just another big win for Trump. It's another huge win. The guy probably didn't even write his own report, is what I'm guessing. That's what I'm hearing from other people, is that he didn't write his own report, and he wasn't really involved with this investigation much. So, I mean, I think this is a big, I don't want to say that it's totally done, this whole Russiagate saga, because they're never going to stop talking about it, but I think this is a big chapter closed and done.
I don't think there's anything more that's going to be able to come out from that now. Like, they aren't going to be able to have any sort of substantive shit based on the Russiagate scandal. Like, based on what came up over here, they're kind of, they might still try to do some stuff, but in all honesty, nothing's going to happen at this point. Not that ever was, but like,
Yeah. So there's not much for it to cover there. I mean, it's one of those things that's just talked about ad nauseum. And it's like nothing comes of it still. As Trump said, he's like, the Democrats had nothing. Now they have less than nothing.
Do you remember like when they had all this like stuff, like they were saying Christmas carols about like the Mueller reports?
I saw that. That was so cringy.
Like someone had like a tattoo of like Robert Mueller on. I'm just like, what fucking retarded. They'll get tattoos of anything, and then like 10 years from now, it's like, hey, mommy, what's that tattoo? It's like, oh, I was a dumb kid, and I got some.
It's Robert Mueller.
Like who's that? It's he fought the Orange Man. He's the Orange Man. He's number 45. When you're president, don't call him that, Sally.
If he doesn't kill himself before he has children, I'm sure that story will be fabulous. Like, are like people regret even getting tattoos of like X's on their fucking body and shit.
God.
You're gonna get like, imagine having some old dude fucking tattooed on your body. Like, what?
See,
that just makes you look like a creepy piece of shit.
People people and like they'll get tattoos like on their face that says like "fuck Trump," and then they go and we're like, "Hey, I can't find a job anymore."
I wonder
I think that
why.
there should be like a fucking ban on getting face tattoos.
Yo.
I think that would be a smart thing.
How about we
Like,
just ban them all?
well, I think for face tat, like people get tattoos on their ass cheek. You know, like if you ever seen like a thought, it gets like it gets, give it something to
get like a tramp stamp.
like it gives you something to look at, while you're fucking them. But like, a tattoo on the face.
I wouldn't know, but okay.
All that a tattoo on the face does is it gives people more like, it makes it so they can't get jobs. Like I think facial tattoos should
increases
be
the
banned,
unemployment.
Unless you have a like a medical condition or something, like where there's like a giant like mole on your face or something, or like you have facial scars. Like I think you'd have to get like doctor's permission to get facial tattoos or like certain tattoos like elsewhere in your body that like are visible pretty much everywhere, and like nothing vulgar on the face, neck, or hands. Like you can't have like a giant dick on your fucking hand and then you go and shake you're going for a job interview and you shake the boss's hand, he sees like there's a giant like slimy cock going to like Trump's mouth. He's like,
so are you going against the whole my body, my choice philosophy here?
oh yeah, because they're gonna end up on welfare. If they can't, they're not going to find a job because no one in the right mind's going to hire some dude with like a naked lady on their forehead or like vulgarity on their forehead or like gang shit on their like hands. There's just so much disgusting stuff. You want to get tattooed on your ass cheeks or like on your chest, that's one thing. I don't mind. Like, I really don't mind tattoos that actually like mean something. Like, I've seen people like who serve in the military, they'll get like a dog tag tattoo to them so that like, if their body ever shows up somewhere, they'll be able to identify them. And I've seen people with like tattoos of like a dead child or something on themselves. Like it'd be like a tattoo of their like dead baby's footprint when
Their
they were
aborted fetus.
Okay, see I think that's actually encouraged if you have an abortion. Like,
oh my god.
It's going to be like some Scarlet Letter shit.
See, here's the thing.
At least in Scarlet Letter, like the mother tried to raise the kid. I have no respect for that. In this, it's just like, oh fuck the kid. I'm just gonna go and tattoo myself, and I'm just gonna go and throw this baby in the dumpster.
See, I think only military people should be getting tattoos. I think civilians should never get them. They're ugly. They're graffiti. They're disgusting. They don't make you look better. They're just, ugh. I mean, maybe I'm trad. This is probably my most trad issue.
I think that I don't like the idea that like military can do shit that like the regular people can't. I don't like that concept. I think there are
they can shoot and murder people, but we can't.
Oh yeah, you can. You can shoot and murder people. They just have to like do something to you first.
No, it's self-defense.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look, I know I don't like sort of giving them extra privilege like that either, but I would say as a societal rule, like that's what it used to be like. And I think it should stay that way. Like,
prisoners too. I think prisoners should, if you like.
Oh yeah, to tag them with like a number. Yeah. Okay, so prisoners and military, only people that should be getting them.
I don't know. Like, I think certain people, if you have if it's something significantly, if it actually like matters, like I don't care what it is. If you have something that actually matters and it's not just some like bullshit, like I was at Cancun and I got drunk and fucked 3 guys in the hotel lobby and I got their names tattooed on my ass cheek where they, shove their cock in. If it's like an actual like legitimate tattoo, I don't care. If it's like something that matters, like a lost loved one, like something in memory of this, that's one thing. But if you get like a stupid tattoo, like you get some anime character tattooed, or like you get some genitalia tattoos, and it's like Homer Simpson's mouth on your pussy. I've seen that before, where like it looks disgusting. It's like Homer Simpson's mouth, and then it's like where the vagina opens, and then like someone did like some really disgusting one where it's like an anime like child on their like vagina, so it looks like you're fucking this girl, you're fucking like you're a fucking pedophile, basically.
One time when I was in college, I got a tattoo that says cockstock right above my asshole.
Or like they'll get like some random like Chinese or Japanese fucking like character.
Oh yeah, that stuff is so stupid.
It means something completely different, and the tattoo artist is like, really go and put on like dumbass or like out even in Japanese or something.
I'm not gonna lie, I would consider doing that if I was the artist. I would do that because, like, look, I bet these people that pick them out don't know what the symbol means, and even if they do, nobody else knows what it means, and they're just like, "Oh, look at me, I'm so cultured. I have a Chinese letter on me." It just looks disgusting.
It just makes like you talk about fucking cultural appropriation. It's like
Yo.
Call it. I don't care if it's cultural appropriation. I don't think that exists. But like the people that bitch about this are the same people with like fucking Chinese tattoos on their butt cheeks and like dreads on their crotch as well. Which that exists. People can get like lady dreads on their lady parts if you let it grow out long enough.
Oh man, I don't know how to transition to our next topic after that, but speaking of Russia and speaking of ugly things, I guess we could say, at the TPUSA Teens to an Action Summit, when President Trump came to speak, which was the first time he ever spoke at a Turning Point conference, was a really big deal, really cool. I guess we could say a disgruntled aide changed the seal that was on the screen behind him when he was entering, and it said on it 45 as a puppet, and it also had a two-headed eagle, which was in reference to the Russian insignia. The left claw was holding golf clubs instead of the original 13 arrows, and then the right claw was holding cash instead of the olive branch representing peace, I guess. Yeah, I mean, look, I love Turning Point. I'm not gonna say a bad thing about them because, I honestly can't because this summit was amazing. My field rep was there, and it was totally awesome. And disclaimer, yes, I do technically work for them as a campus coordinator, and I'm yes a president of their chapter. But I heard it was a great time. It seemed like a totally successful event except for this little thing. It was some disgruntled aide, and they've been fired.
They were disgruntled because I saw the article and it said that they inadvertently put it there. But I don't know if you know something.
Oh, come on, that's a lie.
There's nothing inadvertent about that fucking seal.
I know. It was totally photoshopped.
Someone fucking knew.
Yeah. The only question I have is, like, how did I get past the snuff test? Like, how did they not notice that? Is it something that only a few people saw? Like, I'm just curious.
You've set up events for, like, Trump people before. Like, how many, like, did they really spend time to go and review their own, like, shit?
I mean, they should have. I think
they really should. Like, well, I mean, I could see where somebody was setting it up on stage or whatever, and they were just they had everything planned out before, and then somebody might have swapped the seals.
Yeah.
And then nobody really thought anything of it. Nobody else thought really anything of it as they were setting it all up or whatever. I could see that getting lost in translation with everybody else.
Yeah.
But I mean, they should, like, really, like, if you should have somebody that looks at the fucking stage before this thing happens and then goes, oh, that probably shouldn't be on there. And then,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It just seems like, they should have had someone who did that, but like, probably just a bunch of teens in charge, and they're like, "Oh, this looks right." This kind of looks like they probably didn't really like. It's probably one of those things where you look at it and you don't really see much, and then like you actually have to look a little bit deeper.
That's the thing. That's what was on their part slightly clever, is it was subtle, because when I saw the image of it behind him, I didn't notice it, and so I think honestly that's what could have happened. Is like it probably just snuck, seeped through the cracks. People just didn't notice it because it's so subtle. Like you even forget the eagle's holding arrows and an olive branch, to be honest. So it probably just snuck through, and it's a shame it happened, especially during such a successful summit. I mean, I could ask my field rep for some maybe insider info. He can give me the real red pill on what happened there, but it's it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's a big deal. So, it's one of those things where people go like, "Oh, oh my God, look at this! Look how bad they are and how dumb they are." But it's like this isn't a big deal. I mean, yeah, I don't like it, but like, the big deal is that Trump spoke at a Turning Point conference. That's amazing. That's the accomplishment. We have him, you know, speaking to all these teenagers who are excited. They were camping out in line to get in there because there's a limited seating. They had them camping out there just to see this guy. That's the real story there. I know I put my PR hat there for a second, but honestly, it really is the big takeaway. Like, it just objectively is. And it was a big win for the movement at conference. Those are great.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's pretty big, when you have the, you know, and I mean, Turning Point has done a lot of good stuff, over the years, and I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, maybe that thing was a practical joke, or maybe it happened, or maybe there was a disgruntled person, whatever. I don't. I mean, obviously, Twitter is going to make a big deal out of it because it's like liberal owned, operated, and flooded,
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's like 30 days from now, is anybody going to really care? No.
Exactly. That's what I'm
They're going to
saying.
remember. They're going to remember Donald Trump spoke at this event.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the big victory from all of it, is that he spoke there and he had a great speech. Um, the other thing too is like people forget is like, do you see the CRs doing this anywhere? Do you see Yao doing this? Do you see Yaf doing any of this? No. Only Turning Point has hosted Trump, has hosted the president. Only Turning Point has been this successful, has had these massive conferences, the largest conservative gatherings in the country. And I'm not just saying this to toot my own horn and toot this organization's horn, but it just is objectively true. And when you see people trash this organization, I'm just like, look, just look at the facts. The facts are showing that they're doing better than anyone else. And we need to recognize what they're doing right and make it even better. Keep pushing forward and do greater things instead of trashing each other and like, infighting and all that.
I hate when people do that. Like they like there's people on the right who attack right way more than they attack left, and it's like, are they even
Exactly.
really members of the right? Like people like Ben Shapiro come to mind when I think of this.
Exactly. That's the first face that comes to my mind when I'm talking about this. Because
Yeah,
you
I
both
mean,
have been involved with these organizations. What do you think of them?
Organizations.
All these college ones on the right.
I don't know, like the only one, like when we had the Students for Trump and before it became like, what it is today, I think it was pretty good, but like, I don't know, it's kind of went downhill. But I really like that when it was its thing, because like they were unapologetically pro-Trump, but now
Yeah.
it's like, what are they doing?
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this before. I think we should actually do a separate video on this sort of stuff. But the CRs just do nothing except party. They don't even do that anymore sometimes. But it's all just for, elitists to get something on their resume and to meet fancy elitists at parties and get a job. It's all it's about, it's rich people getting jobs. Turning Point, it's a more grassroots, natural thing of people that are really passionate and want to care about this stuff.
Yeah, like what clubs do we really even have out there? So you get your Turning Points, and they're good. They're a good club. I enjoyed them. From what I've seen of them, I like the Leadership Institute. That's
They're
not
fantastic. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot about them.
I don't know if I'd really call them a club though,
Yeah.
but they're more it's like an organization that hosts events, and I think they're probably one of the better ones that they do their job pretty well.
Yes, they do.
And then you get other things out there, like you get your Yals and your Yafs, and they seem just kind of like the same. They both seem like the same sort of like libertarian shit.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else is like, honestly, they could probably combine forces and like, because I think they used to be the same club and then they split because there's like some really like anarcho people involved.
Oh,
Like
really?
bad. Yeah, I think it was like during the like 60s they split off. Like they got some like ANCAPs and stuff, and they wanted to form their own club, and it just became this like stupid spiral down to the lowest common denominator. Not lowest common, like the most radical sort of group.
It's
It's
a
like, oh well,
purity spiral.
I'm more libertarian than you. Well, shucks, roads. Oh, fuck roads too. But we're more right wing than that. We don't need roads where we're going. We need to go and just destroy every sort of thing. And I mean, I agree with a lot of that stuff, but like,
It's not practical.
There's a certain thing and they became like complete cuckold organizations at this point. And that's what happened to college Republicans at Penn State. Like they used to be like pretty base, but then they got like a little bit carried away when they had the like KKK party. And that kind of led like, it did the pendulum swing, and now it's the exact opposite of whatever stuff it used to be. Like they're afraid to do anything remotely like
controversial or edgy.
Like, I'm surprised they don't just go and say they're libertarian, like their organization's libertarian. They're not actually Republican, because that's the easy way out in college. It's like, oh, well, I'm actually libertarian.
I know, I hate that.
I'm not Republican or Democrat. I don't like taxes. I like to do my own thing. You can go and get married to, like a statue of Shrek. That's cool with me. Get married to 2 statues of Shrek. That's even better. And then you can have your guns too, but we actually kind of don't like that over at College Republicans. We had the ex-presidents tweet about that. But,
oh, really? Whoa, did we?
He said he had some pretty. He was happy about he was happy about like magazine bans or something. That guy was, well, to be fair, on his case, he wasn't actually a Republican. He was actually a Democrat.
Yeah, but he was still.
Someone actually does work.
He was
like someone.
He was still the head of the college Republicans, though, not the college Democrats.
College Republicans, it's gone so downhill. It's like every year something.
It gets worse almost every year.
Yeah.
It might be better this upcoming year, because the new president's a nice guy, great guy. I've talked to him a lot before. I'm optimistic, but I don't know. It's.
Did they at least endorse Trump now?
He said they would support him in 2020. We shall see. But that is what he has said.
I don't know, like, we need to go and get like a bunch of people to get money and just like donate to an alternative, like actual conservative organization. Like the problem with Turning Point is like they literally cannot endorse Trump or else they'll risk losing their status.
Well, they started a Students for Trump now. I don't know if you saw that, but they started their own separate entity, like almost like a spin-off that is Students for Trump. So
I actually liked that back when, before they got hijacked by some people who didn't do work. But yeah, it's a smart idea. I wonder if they'd be allowed at Penn State now. With that name, because I know that we had a big controversy over the naming.
Yeah,
because,
I know.
For Hillary, Students for Bernie, but Students for Trump, that was a bridge too. Let me guess, Trump didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I know. It is so silly. And then they try to get the club for the We Are part, because it was called We Are for Trump at the time. And they said, well, We Are is trademark. It's like, are you kidding me?
They need, like, that's bullshit. That is, like, how can you trademark a phrase, We Are? Like, that is literally...
in every sentence.
Yeah, no, someone needs to go and like get an actual decent lawyer, like crowdfund that shit and just like sue Penn State. Like, you lost your right to We Are after fucking We Are fucked in the shower. Fucking
or We Are
playing these like lawyer games. Like that's just sick. Like, no, we can't have We Are because we really, like, if it was We Are Bernie Sanders or We Are Socialists, they'd probably love that. They'd be like, oh, come over here, here's the nitty line, go and go in, put a communist flag around him. But if it's for Trump's like, it's a conservative.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think it's gonna open up in this school year to start those Students for Trump chapters. Maybe if I have the time, could see what happens with that. Get something going. In time for the next election, just before I
You're gonna
leave.
have so much shit on your plate, man.
I
Yeah,
know,
you have
but
a
I
whole
love it.
way too much.
Whole world
Yeah.
in your hands. It's just like fuck.
Well, somebody's got to do it.
You need to focus on taking what you have to new heights.
That's true, yeah.
And then we could,
that's gonna be the primary focus. This could be like a backup
Yeah.
little thing or a little
Yeah.
side project.
I know that your major is easy, but
Is not.
yes, dude. Yes, your major is easy. You had problems in like the fucking IST 210 major.
Hey, everybody in that class is having trouble. I'm telling you, everybody in my group has trouble with it.
People in my major had trouble, but they just didn't pay attention. They were busy like getting their ass tore, but like fucked on the weekends or fucking someone's ass or drinking beer, and you only do one of those things. But
Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with more real news.